What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I'm your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror Volume 7, Day 23 is coming at you live. And yes, for today, we are going to take it back to the 1950s again, specifically 1958, with a Norwegian film. Yes, a film from Norway. Now, yes, I was going through this box set. Yeah, we'll just get right into it here. So, yeah, of course, 1958 Norwegian film called Lake of the Dead. And it's from this box set. I just don't really feel like holding this one up like I always do. From All the Haunts Be Ours, this awesome folklore box set from Severin. So I picked this one out of the bunch because I'd never seen it before. I'd never heard of it. And I was like, you know what? Awesome. Got to check this one out. So, yes. So from 1958, Lake of the Dead, a Norwegian film. And I was like, wow. Norway was making horror films in the 50s. That's crazy. It kind of blew my mind. So I was like, I got to check this out because I read the premise and I was like, oh, I want to see what they do with this. So, yes. So, Lake of the Dead, 1958. Synopsis. So this one is about, we got 6 main characters who are getting together and they're going to go out to this cabin in the woods. And you're probably thinking right away, like, really? But no, it's not teenagers. It's actually like middle-aged people to like older people with like these bona fide professions. Like one guy's a psychologist, there's like a criminal writer, another guy's a journalist, and so on and so on. So there's these 6 people that are heading out to this cabin to do some R&R and stuff like that. One of the characters, this female, her brother is actually already out there. And so they hop on this train and they make their way to the woods, where when they get there, they realize that the guy that's supposed to be out there, Bjorn, is actually missing. And so they kind of look around for him and stuff like that, and they find his dog dead, and they find no trace of him anywhere. So they're kind of concerned, and they're going like, well, what the hell kind of happened and stuff, which leads into the legend of this cabin. So basically the history with this cabin is that there was a guy who was in love with his sister. Anyways, she obviously didn't feel the same about him, and she eloped with another guy and got married. Anyways, they were found having sex in this cabin, and this dude killed them off with an axe and stuff like that. And 3 days later, he actually committed suicide by drowning himself into the lake. The legend has it. And so every year on like August 24th or whatever, you can hear the killer's screams in the night and stuff like that. So basically these characters try to kind of put the pieces together of like, you know, maybe what happened to Bjorn. And meanwhile, some of the characters might start getting picked off one by one. There's actually kind of like this interesting underline to the folk legend also. It's not just that, you know, you hear the screams of this killer at nighttime. You also potentially can get possessed inside the house from this killer's, you know, the demon soul of the killer, and he will force you to actually drown yourself in the lake also. So that is, you know, the whole premise of the film. Now, my thoughts on this one. This is actually really cool, man. When I read the premise, I was like, oh yeah, I want to see what they're going to do with this. Because I'm thinking 1958, this can't be like a straight up slasher film. Like, you know, like in the 80s, if this was made in the 80s, it would have been 6 teenagers going out to the lake, having tons of sex, smoking some drugs, and getting picked off one by one by a maniac in a mask. That's not really what this is. This one actually kind of has like an Evil Dead feel to it. I mean, when they bring in the effect of like the killer is kind of possessing people might be possessing people inside this cabin and forcing them to drown themselves, forcing them to do things that, you know, is out of their will. I was like, that's crazy, man. It totally has this like Evil Dead feel to it. It's crazy. Now, most of the movie is kind of shot in the dark. I mean, shot in the daytime, not in the dark. But it captures crazy atmosphere. I love the setting of this movie. They capture the woods so well. The cabin's really cool. But it's also the characters. It's also the psychology of the characters. Like, there's actually a psychologist and stuff. But the characters and the dialogue and stuff is really well crafted in the movie. It's super well crafted, the way they have these characters, the way they do things. And I don't want to... I'm going to be a little bit vague here because I don't want to give anything away. But I really liked how they crafted the story in the short running time in the film. It's only about 75 minutes. So it gets right into it. I mean, like I said, they get on the train, they're at the cabin, their friend is missing, Bjorn's missing, and they get right into this kind of this backstory and the folklore, the legend of this killer and stuff, and then right from there it just keeps going and going, and the dialogue is super interesting and it's very atmospheric, and all the characters are kind of interesting in themselves because they're all very professional, and it's got a lot of things going for it. But I was very shocked at this, man, how well it actually worked. The whole resolution was actually kind of cool too when they, it's very typical fashion of back in the day where, you got to kind of put the pieces together through the whole film, and then there is somebody that kind of explains everything that happens. I know some people don't really care for that and stuff, but I think it works in this one because you might not be putting those pieces together, and you might need that explanation, but I think it really does work for what it is. So yeah, my arm's getting sore. This is heavy. It's like a huge book. Forgot I was holding it up. But yeah, Lake of the Dead, man, this was kind of a shocking experience for me, man. I really had no idea what to expect. I don't think I've ever seen a film from Norway, a Norwegian film from the 50s before. I've seen lots of films from Norway before, in the last 30 or 40 years or whatever, but never from the 50s, so I didn't really know what to expect. But yeah, it's really, really well crafted and really well made and stuff like that. So, but yeah, how you do atmosphere in the day is crazy. It just has this really, really thick atmosphere about it that really does work. And but I think the main thing is that it doesn't stray away from the core narrative here. The whole movie is really a mystery. It's really trying to figure it out. It doesn't have a lot of tangents. It doesn't have characters doing all these kind of random things and just running the playtime up and stuff. It doesn't have that. It's very, very core to the narrative, and that's why I think it works, and that's why it's so interesting to the film. So, yeah, Lake of the Dead from 1958. I'm going to come at an 8 out of 10. This one was a shocker to me, man. I really wanted to do something from this box set, and I hadn't done any full core, I don't think, during this 31 days. So I was like, this is so perfect. And again, it intrigued me. Norwegian film from 1958. So let me know if I have any Norwegian folk out there watching this, or people that know about older Norwegian films, because I don't really, I honestly didn't know that they were doing films back then that had been released, widely released. So I just, obviously horror films that were done back in the day and stuff like that, but if there's more from back in the day that have been released, I probably do know some, but I just can't quite remember. But very intriguing stuff. This is why Severin does such a great job with the releases, because some of the films in here are very, very obscure. I'm sure people watching this are familiar with this box set. It's very expensive, but it's well worth it. It's like 20 films of full core films from around the world and stuff. And like I said, I've seen a bunch of these movies. Some of these movies I'd never even heard of, like this one, Lake of the Dead, and others I've heard of, but I just haven't seen and stuff. So, but if you're into full core, man, definitely give this a shot, this box set and also this film, because I thought it was very intriguing. It was very interesting. It was very well done, and can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong with that running time. It gets right to the point. So anyways, guys, that is going to conclude day 23 here on the 31 Days of Horror. I'll be back tomorrow with another film. Obviously, it'll be a newer one, and so we'll see how that goes. So anyways, guys, check you later, and as usual, do it!